Good afternoon. I'm Tom Perriello, the Special Representative for the Quadrennial Diplomacy and Development Review, and I'm excited to welcome you to the launch of this report. A year ago, the Secretary charged our team, under the leadership of the QDDR co-chairs, to pull no punches about how state and USAID operate, how we need to operate, and to identify threats and also opportunities for America today. We were to provide a product to help guide the next generation of diplomacy and development. It has been an honor and even a bit fun to be part of such a participatory process and come to work every day with public servants who not only believe a more secure, dare I say peaceful and prosperous world is possible, but have devoted their lives to making it so. Many who work here make sacrifices every day, as we have seen in recent days from our Chief of Mission and staff in Nepal, who not only lived through a disaster, but as we speak, are showing American leadership and partnership through their relief efforts. We had tremendous input from all levels of our institutions, state and aid, as well as from foreign policy experts, advocates, and those who represent the American people on Capitol Hill. We've worn through more than a few whiteboards and flip charts, answering the Secretary's call to engage all in drafting a blueprint for America to do exceptional things within exceptional institutions. Many of these stakeholders will be hosting meetings on implementation as we roll this out throughout May in a series of internal, Hill, and public events over the coming weeks. This would not have happened without a great working relationship between state and USAID, represented by the tremendous leadership of our co-chairs, Deputy Secretary Higginbottom, who has been a tireless force for improving the efficiency and impact of U.S. diplomacy in a very new information environment. Raj Shah before and now Acting Administrator Linhart have helped spearhead greater accountability and innovation, as well as elevating diplomacy as central to U.S. foreign policy. And finally, none of this would have been possible without Secretary Kerry's leadership. Secretary Kerry has personally embodied and animated the very notion of diplomacy. His tireless dedication to peace and security inspires so many, including younger officers here, that sometimes the greatest courage is to dare to think peace is possible. Secretary Kerry understands that serving the American people is an honor and thus demands excellence, innovation, and results from all of us who serve here. He applied that same standard to his QDDR, not just the report, but the important work that will follow. I'm honored he asked me to serve, inspired by his leadership and example every day, and excited to introduce you to the Secretary of State, John Kerry.
Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very generous. Tom, thank you very much for very generous introduction. And I'm very appreciative, not only for the introduction, but more importantly for the extraordinary work that you have done. And I think if I can I'll say a couple more words about that in a minute, but I think everybody knows that around here we're always pretty busy. But the current 2-week period in many ways just sort of underscores the degree to which the department has to be incredibly active on an unbelievable number of fronts simultaneously. Just in the last couple of weeks, my speeches, and my schedule is focused on meetings and trips that have concerned Latin America, Turkey, Earth Day, Trade Promotion Authority, the future of the Arctic, a terrible earthquake in Nepal, non-proliferation, Iran, Egypt, Jordan, our special relationship and our alliance with Japan. And in 2 days, I'll be heading to Sri Lanka and then on to Africa. And I think it's fair to say, and everybody here will agree, that nowadays this pace is not unusual. It's the norm. It's typical, and it underscores the need for efficiency, for sound planning, and for an institution that adapts to the times, that recognizes we're living in a very different world with far more information to manage, information that reaches far more people faster, and in many ways challenges governance itself. So here it is, the QDDR enduring leadership in a dynamic world, and dynamic may even be a soft term for the world we're living in today. I want to thank everybody who has had anything to do with this effort. It's been hard. It's been a long, intellectually challenging and practically challenging exercise. And the team here has really made it happen, and I'm very proud of them and grateful to them for what they've done. First, a thanks to Deputy Secretary Higginbottom, who has really been the administrative shepherd of this project from start to finish, and she did so with a lot of skill and wisdom and patience. And thanks especially are due to the person who day to day ran all the hoops and did all the hard work of this effort, and that's Tom Perriello and his staff, who have done a really superb job. Assembling the QDDR, I promise you, when you sit down and begin with it, it's like putting together one jigsaw puzzle from a box that contains pieces from about 6 or 7 puzzles. And you really have to kind of figure out what fits where and what you eliminate and what you don't have time for and what doesn't belong there. It's a complex task, and I think we've heard a lot in recent years about hard, soft, smart power, but ultimately the QDDR comes down to brain power and to our ability to be able to think through where we are today versus where we want to get to and where the world is going. So Tom and his colleagues cast a very wide net in search of those answers, and I applaud him for taking on a very tough mission and seeing it through with outstanding results. Now, as we recall, one of the lasting legacies of the first QDDR was the recognition that development is a co-equal pillar of our foreign policy. And it's only natural as a result of that Alfonso Lennart and his team have been a full and very valuable partner in the development of this QDDR. And I want to thank everybody at USAID, which I know is having a very demanding week this week, spearheading our disaster assistance in Kathmandu. Now, as Tom mentioned, this second QDDR builds on the innovations of the first. And, excuse me. It is allergy time of year. It builds on the innovations of the first QDR, but also it is guided by President Obama's overall national security strategy, obviously. Each page incorporates our determination to take his mandate, measure it against what we do and do well, and then make the decision that we want to do it even better. And we're going to pursue excellence in every way that we can, and that's what this document tries to lay out. This afternoon, rather than summarize the document, I'm just going to introduce it quickly, and then I'm going to leave the team here. Heather and Al will each have a chance to speak, and we'll take your questions through them. But I want to highlight just a few general points. First, by design, the QDDR does not attempt to include everything. From day one, I told Tom, follow your instincts. Nothing is off limits, but there is a difference between a blueprint and an encyclopedia. And I wanted the QDDR to suggest real changes in the way that we do business, priority reforms that will make us stronger and more effective for years to come, not every picayune, jot and tittle that is necessary to, look under every bench and every desk. Second, the QDDR focuses on 4 strategic priorities for state and USAID. These include the fight against violent extremism, building open societies, promoting shared prosperity, and curbing climate change. And each of these priorities is related to the need for better governance across the globe. They're all linked. And after, when you think about it, governments are obviously far more likely to help solve problems internationally and be part of the multilateral effort if they're able to manage their own affairs and do well at home. So it's in our interest to invest in programs that strengthen democratic institutions, fight corruption, encourage transparency, and help governments with a big boost from civil society to be able to meet the expectations of their people. Third, in promoting shared prosperity, the QDDR emphasizes a point that I have made often as Secretary, which is the need to integrate economic innovation and development into just about everything that we do. Whether we're preparing the way for a landmark trade agreement or applying a new model for ending extreme poverty, we have to aim at more than just raising our country's GDP. So our goal is to foster the kind of sustained and widely shared prosperity that will create new jobs, grow the middle class, reduce income disparities, promote gender equality, and give young people a real stake in building their societies up, not tearing them down. That's why I encourage all of the departments, foreign and civil service personnel, each and every one of them, to view themselves as economic officers with a mandate to establish winning connections in their countries that they're working on or regions, and to generate bold ideas in order to give people in those countries a stake in their own future. Fourth, in an era when power dwells increasingly in networks rather than in hierarchies, we have to engage with an ever-expanding array of organizations, groups, and regional and subnational leaders. This is absolutely critical to our strategy for preventing terrorists from using local grievances to recruit new fighters or to establish safe havens from which they can then launch attacks. Expanding partnerships are also key to our policy, or policies, plural, on energy, clean energy, and climate change, which, as I mentioned, is another of the top priorities. So I raise the urgency of this subject constantly with my counterparts, just as our ambassadors are instructed to do with foreign ministers. But action at the national level is only part of the equation. Most people live in cities, which is where the lion's share of energy is consumed and pollution is generated. That means mayors and governors also have a critical role to play in this, here and all across the world, as do, by the way, entrepreneurs, educators, environmentalists, faith-based groups particularly. In the months to come, we're going to do everything that we can to mobilize these networks in support of early and ambitious action on climate change. Fifth, the QDDR recognizes that in this turbulent period, it's impossible to conduct diplomacy without some element of risk. Risk to physical, physical properties, to the properties of our department, but risk also to our personnel. And we're all deeply and forever indebted to our armed forces, who are expected to and knowingly go out and accept that risk in uniform with all that is attendant to that responsibility. But the fact is, diplomats and development professionals, as we just learned too sadly in the last few days, willingly accept danger in order to serve. Every person who is stationed across the globe as a representative of the United States is regrettably somewhere, somehow, possibly a potential target. And by the way, so can be tourists and others, as we have seen in various places. More than a third of the countries where our people work are less than fully stable, and no post is completely safe. So in line with the QDDR, we are going to look at every possible way to maintain security and still perform our key functions. And we're going to keep improving our risk management policy while responding to incidents that automatically trigger a very intense security review at the same time. Overall, the QDDR is going to help us strike the right balance between protecting our people and doing our jobs, because make no mistake, we are committed to doing both. Now finally, we're going to keep investing in our people's success, in the greater State Department family, USAID family, and we're going to invest in their capacity to be able to be successful. Better technology, a more advanced approach to managing information can help us to work more effectively, whether we're trying to catch bad guys by sharing information with law enforcement, or whether we're attempting to head off the next famine or the next genocide, or looking for ways to help people in remote areas simply connect to the global economy. As we implement this QDDR and as we go about the daily business of diplomacy and development, we will work to make full use of every instrument in our national security toolbox. And that demands a clear sense of priorities, the wise use of technology, a total commitment to training, the kind of dedicated team members who are continually upgrading what they can do and how well they can do it, who care about their job enough to think about analyzing it for themselves and figuring out how it could work better. Nobody's cornered the market on any procedure or any process, believe me. And I want a department that is open to new and better and different ways of doing things. This QDDR will demand as well something that may seem a little bit old-fashioned, and that is the simple ability to forge constructive personal and professional relationships with counterparts across the globe. Ultimately, diplomacy is about people, the needs that they perceive, the choices they want to make in their lives, the challenges they have in getting along or in making those choices, or in just living day to day. At State and USAID, our own people are in the arena every single day, and they deserve all the support, all the equipment, all the training, and all the backing that we can provide. This QDDR is designed to help ensure that we provide it, and I am confident that it will. So I'm pleased now to turn the podium over to my colleague, the acting administrator of USAID, Al Lenhart, and I thank you all, and I know you will have a lot of questions for the team that will remain with you here. Thank you all. Al, your podium. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I want to begin by thanking Secretary Kerry, whose tireless efforts on behalf of our country are truly laudable, and whose vision of a smarter, more effective approach to diplomacy and development will pay great dividends in the decades to come. Thank you as well to Deputy Secretary Higginbottom and Special Representative Perriello for their commitment to shaping this critical initiative. 5 years ago, the first QDDR provided the strategic foundation to elevate development as a key component of U.S. foreign policy. With direction from the QDDR, USAID implemented a suite of ambitious reforms that have literally changed the way we do business. Since 2010, we have selectively reduced our program areas by more than a third, focusing our work where we will have the greatest impact. All of our major programs are now independently evaluated, and those evaluations are available right now on an iPhone application. And I think some of you have probably looked at some of those evaluations. This is an unprecedented level of transparency. And last year, we launched the groundbreaking U.S. Global Development Lab, which began as a recommendation of the first QDDR. 5 years later, these reforms are the foundation of a new way of doing business, one grounded in the harnessing of innovation, local solutions, and public-private partnerships to deliver real results. This approach has empowered us to drive extraordinary progress across the globe. In 1 year alone, the Feed the Future program helped 7 million farmers boost their harvests with new technologies and improve nutrition for more than 12 million children. Power Africa has already mobilized $20 billion in private sector commitments and encouraged fragile countries to make critical reforms. And thanks to a groundbreaking investment in child and maternal survival, we are on track to save the lives of up to 15 million children and nearly 600,000 women by the year 2020. But just as the first QDR has helped us lift millions of the world's most vulnerable people from a devastating cycle of hunger, disease, and extreme poverty, it has also helped us transform our agency from within. Guided by the QDR's recommendations, we rebuilt our policy and budget bureaus to make results-driven, evidence-based investments, strengthen talent management, including hiring more than 1,100 new staff, and revamped our operations to conduct more rigorous performance evaluations and monitoring. In each area of reform, we set aspirational goals that have established a common language for success, challenged our partners, and pushed us to be more innovative and creative. Today, as a result of these efforts, we are able to respond to some of the world's most pressing challenges, from the Ebola outbreak in West Africa to the present crisis in Nepal, with greater speed, flexibility, and effectiveness than ever before. And at the same time, we are able to lay the foundation for open, resilient, and democratic societies, empowering all citizens to realize their potential and withstand unpredictable shocks to their community. But while the first QDR was a strong start, we know a lot of work remains to be done to realize President Obama's call to lead the world in ending extreme poverty in the next 2 decades. That's why it is so important that the new QDR reaffirms development's role as a critical pillar of our national security and foreign policy. With this emphasis on inclusive economic growth and good governance, this QDR will focus our collective efforts and energy on emerging global priorities, from preventing and countering violent extremism to addressing climate change, and on emerging opportunities from big data to climate smart seeds. It also focuses on risk management, ensuring that our heroic development professionals have the tools they need to do the job and have the kind of knowledge and support, knowing that the lives that they improve and save on a daily basis is something that we can all be proud of, and certainly that they are part of making history for the entire world. Simply put, the new QDR will enable us to take advantage of this unique moment in history, one where new tools, technologies, and partnerships are defining and redefining what's possible. And in doing so, it will empower us to unlock unprecedented opportunities in the world's toughest environments, helping us to tackle the greatest challenges of our time. As we step forward to answer the President's call with renewed energy and focus, the QDR will play a critical role in helping us give every individual everywhere a fair shot at a life of dignity, opportunity, and freedom. I thank you very much for your kind attention. It is now my privilege and my honor, moreover, to introduce my colleague and good friend, Deputy Secretary Heather Higginbottom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Al. And thank you all for being here. As the Secretary made clear in his remarks, the 2015 QDDR represents the culmination of a year of hard work by Tom and his team, and today we want to thank them along with everyone at State and at USAID who contributed to this report. Secretary Kerry reviewed a few of the recommendations that are made in the report to enhance our internal operations so that we can work better, smarter, and more safely and efficiently to meet emerging foreign policy challenges, but I just want to highlight a few more. First, we're building department-wide knowledge management tools, including a new hub for analytics and strategy that will leverage data to uncover trends and inform policy making. We will strengthen information sharing and collaboration to better integrate strategic and budget planning with program management, execution, and performance monitoring and evaluation. We will encourage innovation and programmatic risk-taking. We will find ways to ensure that we take care of our team members after they return from isolated tours in the world's most dangerous places. We will explore leave without pay options to give our staff flexibility that's often missing during a career spent outside of America's borders. And we'll redouble our efforts to promote diversity in our staff. Today's release of the QDDR marks the end of one phase and the beginning of another. The State Department and USAID now turn to implementation and institutionalizing the QDDR's recommendations. Institutional change is always challenging, and we know that we have hard work ahead of us. The QDDR reaches nearly every corner of the State Department and USAID, and implementing its recommendations will require sustained leadership across the board. Both State and USAID's leaders are committed to ensuring that our organizations drive these reforms and priorities forward. We'll also look to the men and women of State and USAID to provide their insights on how to ensure that the QDDR's recommendations are impactful and fully implemented. Over the next month, we'll hold a series of discussions across State and aid to dig deeper into the key themes in the report, and we'll engage with our Chief of Missions and Mission Directors to glean their expertise from the field as well. The QDDR has charted a course, and now it's our job to follow it with tangible action to ensure that our diplomatic and development efforts are in prime position to meet the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Thank you very much, and I think we're going to take a few questions if you have them.
Great. So first question to Leslie Rodden from Reuters.
Yes.
Hi. I was interested in this issue of, you talked about these emerging foreign policy challenges and specifically the issue of tackling extremism in local situations on the ground. How is that going to affect the way the development programs are initiated and structured? Obviously, you focus on jobs and on economic upliftment, women and girls and stuff like that. But exactly how do you aim to practically take this on?
Sure. So I think there were a couple things that emerged from this conversation, our conversations particularly in the field, where the diplomatic and development corps were very much in the same place. And one of those was the need and ability to get out and engage, as the Secretary spoke to. I think that there's a sense of the premium on personal and direct engagement, and we do understand that that happens in areas of complex risk. But I think what is core to people is that they chose to serve, and they chose to serve to make a difference, whether one believes and wants to drive that through the development space or the diplomatic space. The second has actually been a coming together on the importance of data and diagnostics, that we really can do a better job of learning best practices in these areas. So just today, actually, there were individuals from both institutions looking at models of constraints to growth and trying to reach agreement and understanding. So I think in these areas, what we're seeing is a much better dialogue and integration of these areas. Obviously, there are places where the independence of those two things is very important in terms of what's in the lead. We didn't really address in this particular report any dramatic changes to that because we do believe that that conversation is going well. The other thing both sides, I think, have focused on as important is the issue of addressing at least some attention to the side of prevention and not just confronting, whether that's in a disaster situation where we must be able to respond quickly as we do, or our need to be able to confront violent extremism. We need to be able to respond to those things, but we also want to focus on the issues and root causes, of which good governance was certainly one that came up over and over again. Both the issue of competent governance, if infrastructure and human infrastructure infrastructure and human capital investments, and also the issue of addressing corruption as a root cause. So.
would just add that I think, a big stream of work that the White House, the State Department, USAID, the Defense Department, others have been looking at is preventing or countering violent extremism. We had a summit. There was a lot of work done here. In our work in putting the QDDR together, that was a theme we obviously have highlighted and focused on. And part of what you see in the report and part of the work going forward is figuring out how to bring our various tools and capacities together to better engage in that work. So I think part of the answer to your question is that's some of the work ahead, is figuring out how we advance those strategies. There's already a great deal of work going on, and we highlight some of that in the QDDR. But I think we also see it as an area we need to grow across our agencies and figure out how to be better prepared to respond, counter, prevent, et cetera.
So would it be, is it looking at specific regions? And I mean, obviously, there's been this long debate about how poverty can breed this kind of issue. How do you see moving forward trying to integrate these kinds of programs without kind of interfering in the development aspect of?
So let me ask Gail to answer that as well, but I will just say that in terms of looking at particular regions, we know there are particular regions that are sort of more prone or more apt to this, either fragile or failing states, or the seeds or the circumstances contribute to that. So obviously we focus a lot on those regions. What we've also seen, though, is that this is sort of borderless, countryless, and we're looking at a broader policy approach. But let me ask Gal to engage in the development question.
I think part of that is also about economic empowerment, and it's offering an alternative voice to some of the dialogue from the extremists, and showing where actions match words and doing actual development, improving lives, saving lives. And so it's about ensuring that we don't give the extremists all the opportunity to tell what is essentially untruth. And so development gets in and shows real work, and it encourages people. And I saw it firsthand as the ambassador to Tanzania, how we were able to change that narrative to a positive one, so much so that the people of Tanzania became very favorably impressed and moved away from extremism and more towards certainly a favorable view of what we were doing.
Time for just a couple more, if any further. Laura from CNN.
Sure. I have kind of a two-part question. The first is, and this is something that the Secretary kind of hit on, but it seems like this report is this review is a lot narrower in scope than the 2010 review. It's gets less into the weeds of making a lot of kind of broad reform prescriptions than that one did. Is there a particular reason for this? And then the second part of the question is, there's a lot of big challenges that are high on the radar today that weren't really an issue back in 2010. And as it's immediately coming to mind, ISIS, the situation in Ukraine. What's the challenge of putting together a review like this when it's such a dynamic, changing environment?
Sure. So on the first, I think that we have tried to be quite focused in this report, in part because the last QDDR did such a comprehensive capability review and did some quite significant reforms around the building, including on the structures you mentioned, standing up whole bureaus and families, and we're continuing to see how those develop and the successes and impacts. What we saw from that was an ability, by looking ahead, to see the fact that issues like cyber and the new energy economy were going to be, and smarter forms of economic sanctions were going to be a greater part of our diplomatic toolbox, that these were areas where state wanted to increase its capacity. So in the Secretary looking at the decision whether to do a second QDDR, I think what he saw was that having been a useful exercise that was already paying dividends in how we engage in some of these crises as well as opportunities today. In this case, I think for a variety of reasons, we wanted to try to have a more focused document in a few areas, filling some of the gaps that had developed either from new dynamics on the ground or otherwise. And I think, when talking to our defense colleagues about previous quadrennial defense reviews, that had often been a pattern there as well, of going broader and then going more narrow in that process. So I think that was a healthy discourse, and I think we were able to note some progress in those areas, and in some cases want to continue to see how those things develop. In terms of the new dynamics, I think one of the nice things about doing a quadrennial review is that we know in an institution like this, in a world like this, there is going to be a very strong magnetic pull to whatever is A1 above the fold. And that is because you are going to face existential threats and you are going to need your most senior leadership on that. It was almost a form of luxury, though it hasn't necessarily always felt that way, to be in an office where you're not looking at the crisis of the day, but instead trying to connect the dots across these crises and say, what can we learn from these dynamics that we see? What can we get better at in responding to this? And I think that's part of what we've tried to focus on in the report, is looking at some of those things that are a little bit more over the horizon. So I think this goes back to the last question in a way, which is that it's interesting in the USAID mission statement that you get back to the importance of resilient democratic communities. So again, extreme poverty, you have people who need to get fed today. We have folks we need to reach today, but we also need to look at those capabilities, and a lot of that does get into the just seismic shifts in the technological information and knowledge environment and how we embrace that complex risk in ways that we've seen not just for the government, but humanitarian groups and others are facing very different threat risks than we have seen before. We know the mission comes first, and we will need to operate in those environments. We want to manage to it, but we also want to make sure our folks are getting out and able to embrace in that. So I think those are the sorts of things we're seeing. Another thing that does connect across a number of these that certainly features in the report is this issue the Secretary talked about power existing in networks. The idea of diffuse power from an organization that historically has been hierarchical is a transition that I think began with Secretary Powell and perhaps before, and has been a work in progress. And we saw this QDDR as speaking to, rather than making a break from, very important reform efforts that came before. Now more than ever, you can't just talk ministry to ministry. You have to be out talking to the CEOs, talking to the mayors, talking to the faith leaders, as was mentioned. And that's certainly been a growing theme and growing capabilities to do that here. And certainly when you see what non-state actors can do on the negative side, but also on the positive side, where citizen movements and others are addressing issues like corruption. Again, something that came up throughout the report. It came up as a rights and accountability issue. It comes up as a development, inclusive economic growth issue, as a PVE issue. Here's something we're seeing across those. How do we work across silos to do that? And again, I think that was something that we tried to address.
Roz, Al Jazeera.
Hi. You talked a moment ago about not having to worry about the crisis that's above the fold, but certainly one thing that the State Department and USAID, and in fact, all of the federal agencies have to worry about is sequestration. Congress doesn't seem to be inclined to want to spend money pretty much on anything except on the Pentagon. Did you have to consider the political reality while looking at what was done in the last 5 years and how these two agencies reorganize and capitalize on some of these new things, such as big data and seeds, and keep an eye on the bottom line? Because the folks on Capitol Hill are going to want to know, well, how is this saving the taxpayer money?
Right. So we certainly want, in any strategic review, I think, to both work within the realities you see, but not be so constrained by them that you don't ask the question of what one would do if more resources were available. We did not want to put out a document that simply said, if we only had more money, look at all the great things we would do. Nor did we want to put out a document that said we're going to do a bunch of things that we don't actually have the resources to do. And some of that was about making priorities and writing a more narrow report to focus on the areas we thought were of greatest need and priority. And we think areas around agility, around knowledge management, about ways that get us out to engage more, are really playing into the comparative advantage for both state and aid and how they manage things. Political reality is something I know a little bit about, so we certainly had that somewhere in mind, and I understand the difficulties Congress has in, answering to the taxpayers for what's done here. And I think both state and aid are taking seriously the idea that they want to show greater accountability. Acting Administrator Lenhart spoke to the transparency issue that under his leadership and Raj's leadership has really been a tremendous move in that direction. Diplomacy is harder to quantify, honestly, but I think that's not a reason not to do it, and I think you see bureaus and others through the strategic planning process that's growing, doing an increasing job of being able to say, hey, we're going to put this plan forward, we're going to hold ourselves accountable for it in a world that may change those dynamics very quickly. So I think I would not be speaking out of turn to say that more resources more investments in our diplomatic space would be extremely valuable for our security and for our prosperity. But we also want to be able to operate in the world that we have, and we will continue that. One of the other things I'll just note about the process, we did have a good discourse with the Hill. And obviously we want to spend a lot of time there with folks, hearing their concerns, sharing our findings. We know there are going to be ongoing processes there. We want this to feed in and be a partnership. And as the Secretary has said, particularly on these very important questions of risk, this is something where all of those who've been elected by the American people to represent them up here as decision makers need to be part of that conversation. The issues of risk management, but also risk tolerance in a civilian space is something we very much want to be a dialogue with the Hill.
And could I have a quick follow-up? During the next several weeks, when the QDDR is rolled out to chiefs of mission and their staff, to people in the various policy departments here at state, are you prepared for pushback from people who might say, you know what, the way we did X, let's say getting early nutrition to mothers and children in especially hard-hit areas, we don't want to change the way we've been doing that because it's been successful and we've been able to make progress and we don't want to sacrifice that? I'm just using that as an example.
Sure. No, actually, this is, I think I'm going to regret saying this, but I think this is kind of the fun part, where we have done a very difficult process of reaching agreement on a set of priority reforms and ideas, and now we want to move into the granularity of implementing those. One of the things that we've talked about a lot at both state and USAID is how do you create a more experimentation, innovation-oriented environment. Often in the public sector, it feels like you're only judged by your failures, not your successes, and they don't get reported quite as much sometimes. And so you want to create an environment in which we try new things and that there is not a sense of, you know, managing to avoid failure instead of managing to success. So we think that these are important directions that we can go with this. We also want where those people can say, hey, this program worked. Why do you want to change it? That's extremely important for DC headquarters to hear and not micromanage the field when there are programs that are working. There are certain things that we can see here by looking at the data of all the posts and certain things that only the Post can see. And I think one of the core components of this that's really exciting is to get at and really feed into a very new way of thinking about information that is not the field comes out to DC. It's not one-way communications. It's networked information where DC is also feeding out in the field. And certainly this has been going on. We didn't invent the concept. The idea is we want to put, you know, a lot more muscle behind those efforts to think about this information environment differently, to think about lessons learned differently. And to do that, you have to create the incentives to show, hey, even if the thing didn't go right, if it was a smart risk to take, it was a smart thing to try, and if we learned from it, that's the kind of thing that we want to encourage and improve on.
Thanks, everyone.